My name is Kritika Kantraj, and I'm a solution engineer with Esri. I work out of the Boston office, and I work primarily with state governments in New England and New York. Today, I'm going to give you an overview of ArcGIS field maps. I'm going to turn off my video because I have multiple monitors here, and I'm going to present from the other monitors. It just might look like I'm looking somewhere else and presenting here. So turning off my video here. All right, so we started building Collector in 2014, and it sort of became the foundation of our field operations initiative. And as more customers began adopting field apps in their organizations, we started adding more and more capabilities. And we also followed the path that was set by Apple and Google by building focused apps for different activities or capabilities. And these apps that you see here are built from, a core ArcGIS Runtime SDKs, and they are the foundation of our story. There are several additional apps that have specialized focus as well, such as Survey 123, Quick Capture, Emission Responder, Indoors, and all the other ones. However, with all these apps, what we have found is that organizations deploy these multiple apps to complete a workflow, and it was too cumbersome. It required downloading each app from the store, signing in into each app, linking them together, and in some instances, downloading copies of data multiple times when you're working with offline data. That led us to sort of build this one app called Field Maps that allows you to do much of what could be done in multiple applications. So Field Maps allows you to plan, navigate, understand, capture, monitor, and coordinate. And I'll go into the details of each of these different sections. But on a very broad level, we developed Field Maps that is a combination of 5 different existing applications, but the other applications such as Survey 123, Quick Capture, Mission Responder, Indoors, Earth, which are also considered mobile applications, are going to remain independent applications and would not be folded into field maps. So field maps is a combination of these 5 different applications. The first one is ArcGIS Collector, Explorer. Explorer has been used widely for different purposes, such as just viewing your maps in a mobile device, being able to annotate on them, share those maps out in some cases. And many people have been using Collector for a long time, which is a field map-based data collection application that allows you to, open up a map, select a point, look at the feature characteristics, and collect data at the point or edit data at the point, uh, and submit your collection. And the third one over here is tracking. So with the tracker application, you are able to track a person's location to see where the person has been, how far he's traveled, what the speed of travel is, if they're going into areas that they're not supposed to go to. You can use tracker information along with other applications and do sort of geofencing capabilities to identify areas that people are going into and flag those areas and things like that. So currently in ArcGIS Field Maps, these 3 applications have been rolled in. The other 2 applications that are not yet rolled in into Field Maps are Workforce for ArcGIS, which allows you to assign a task to an individual and track the completion of the task. So the person who's on the field would be able to start a task um, and complete a task so that the office manager is able to know which tasks have been completed. And the last one is navigation capabilities using ArcGIS Navigator. Um, so all of these applications are going to be rolled into field maps, but currently the first 3 are the ones that have been rolled in the first phase. So what are some key capabilities in this application currently? The first one is map viewing. So a person would be able to open up the map and visualize the features on the map, select points on the map, look at the attributes of the feature, and change the base map, um, and also do some markup. So you can add annotations on the map as well as notes to those annotations and share it out with colleagues to make people aware of what's going on in the field without having to update a feature. The third one is data collection, and fourth one is asset inspection. I think both these go hand in hand because they are similar workflows where you're either collecting data in the field or you can do asset inspection where you're selecting a point and updating that point or maybe collecting new points on the field. The last one is location tracking, where a person is able to turn on location tracking on a device, and when they turn on location tracking, um, the phone sort of your mobile device is able to capture your location as you're moving and record that in the back end in a feature layer. So collectively, you are able to view, collect, and track data in field maps currently. So what are the 5 key benefits? The number one is you're able to deploy just one app, and you don't have to spend too much time to get familiar with multiple apps. So with just one deployment, you are getting yourself familiar. And plus, the advantage of field maps is that its interface is very similar to ArcGIS Collector, which many of you are already familiar with. So it's not going to be too much of a learning curve for people who have already been using ArcGIS Collector. Um, and you're able to use just one single sign-on because there's only one app. You don't have to sign in multiple times to go into different applications. And it also eliminates the duplication of offline content. So, if you're using Explorer, or if you're using Collector, and if you're going offline, and if you've got these two applications working together in the field, then you might have to take both these offline and maintain the data in your offline device. But now you are able to just use this one application to take your data offline and sync them as and when you come back into network. And it has a smaller aggregate app footprint. So, 5 applications are going to be combined into one application. So you can imagine that, it's going to take up lesser space on your device. And it's consistent, right? You are going to be working with one application. You don't have to do multiple version updates in different applications, just one version update as and when new features get released. It's going to help you minimize the maintenance of these applications. So field maps is basically divided into 2 different components. One is the mobile app, the other is the back office web app. The mobile app is where a person in the field is going to be able to look at the maps and do the data collection in the field. And that's where they can also turn on tracking and turn off tracking. The back office web app is where the office manager is able to design the form and so that they are able to provide the field workers with an easy to use form interface to collect data in the field. They can identify areas that need to be taken offline, or they can identify fields that are need to be default fields, put in default values for the fields, identify fields that need to be marked as required, and things like that. So these are 2 components of field maps. In ArcGIS Collector, we do not have a web component. So most of the form design or the data collection interface would be designed in the pop-up of the feature layer. But now, you are able to give a better user interface to the field worker by using the web app. All right, I'm going to go into the demo here. Oops. So for the demonstration part, I'm going to start with a web map in the new map viewer. So currently what you're seeing here is two layers, which I'm going to do inspection on. The two layers are system valve and distribution main. The system valve are the points and the distribution main are the lines. And I also have a table here, and this table is for valve maintenance. There is a one-to-many relationship between the system valve and the valve maintenance, meaning to say that there could be many inspections done on a single valve, and that could be stored in the table. So as you can see here, I have already done some styling to this layer, but I'm going to show you that we can do some configuring of the pop-ups, and that would actually transfer to designing the field map form view, um, so that it makes it easier for us to design the form view and also a better interface for the user to see in the mobile device. So I'm going to select system valve here and do configuring the pop-ups. And as and when I select these different items, you'll see that I'm looking at an interface that is going to change when I change the configuration of the pop-up. So for example, here, I don't want name to be the title. I want the title to be asset type, and I do an OK. And then for the field list, there are 42 fields here, and right now each one of them are being displayed. So I'm going to deselect all of them, and I'm going to select only a few that I want people to update on my field or look at, view in my field, and plus update. So I'm going to select asset type, diameter, valve type, normal status, present status, and nodes. And I can also order them the way I want them to to be viewed in the mobile device. So I want valve type right on top of, uh, right at the second spot, and I want diameter at the third spot. So these are the 6 fields that I want people to be seeing in the mobile device when they are on the field. Similarly, for the distribution main, I can change the fields to be just a few. I'm going to select here uh, the diameter, the asset type, the main type, and that's it. So similarly, I can also go into the tables, select the table, and change the pop-up for the table as well. So I'm going to configure the pop-up. The title is going to be maintained as maintenance date. And I'm not going to make global IDs and the object ID and the GUID visible. So right now I'm done configuring the map, and I'm going to save. So once I'm done configuring a map, I'm going to open this map up in field maps to show you how easy it is to configure what a form is going to look like. And I want to note here that configuring the map in the new map viewer is preferred over the classic map viewer, because the classic map viewer is not able to retain many of the components of the pop-up plus the form. There's a new form object that's been introduced in the new map viewer, uh, and it's built on the JavaScript 4x API, which is consistent with the field maps API as well. So it's recommended for you to create the web maps in the new map viewer, and then bring it into field maps. And your results are going to be more consistent. In some cases, if you go back to the classic map viewer and make changes to the pop-up and save it, you're going to lose some content, and you're going to not see consistent results. So it's recommended to just use the new map viewer when using field maps. All right, so I'm going to go into the field maps application. The way you get to the field maps application is you actually, go back here in the app launcher. If you select field maps, that's going to launch. And here you can see that I have the water map live demo that I created right now. So I'm going to go ahead and open that. And when I open it up, you see an easy to use interface with tabs on my left. So this is giving me a quick overview of this web map. And I go into content here where this is where I actually create what my form is going to look like. I have two editable layers here and I have a table. So I'm going to start with configuring the system valve here. So when I select the system valve, you'll notice that the template, I have the template icon as well as some formatting options. So I can give it a description and I can also look at all the field values and the duplicate values that have been set up. Duplicate values can be set up in two different ways. One is when you are creating the layer, either in ArcGIS Pro and ArcGIS Online, or when you're adding new fields. It cannot be edited after you've created the field, but once you are in field maps here, you are able to come here and change default values. Like let's say here that, I want the normal status and present status here to be set as open, but I can change it to close maybe as the default value. But I'm going to leave it like here and you can as such, and you can see here I have set up default values for a number of fields um, in this template. So if you have multiple templates here, you can set up default values for each of those templates. For example, status, you might have status such as open, closed, pending. You can set up values for each of those options depending on the attribute selected. So when I go into the form, this is where I can actually configure what my form is going to look like for that template. So I can either convert the pop-up into the form, or I can start sort of like creating this form from scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and create groups here so that it's easy for people on the field to look at the information and change the information as well. So this group I'm going to name as general information. And I can also give it a description to let people know what this group contains. But I'm going to close out the properties of this. And I can add attributes to this group right now by just dragging and dropping the attributes into that group. So over here, I want to add asset type. And when I add asset type, I can click on the asset type and look at the properties of the asset type here. This asset type is a domain field, has domain values associated with it. So when it has domain values, it allows you to select the display option as either a combo box or a radio button. So when I select radio button, it provides me options in the form of a radio button, even in my field app. And you can see here that I can check this as a required item or not. And I can also set up conditional visibility as well if I need. For this, I'm not setting up conditional visibility. I'm going back and I'm going to go ahead and add a couple of more attributes. So I have field type, and I also want to add the diameter to this general information. Now I'm going to go ahead and add another group here, which is called status. I'm going to name this as status. And under status, I'm going to have normal status and present status as two attributes. as well as notes. So for each of these attributes, I'm able to configure properties. So for example, for notes here, it is of type text, and it gives me an option to either have it as a small text box or as a text area. And it also gives you barcode scanning options as well. Since notes is probably going to be a lengthy text, I'm selecting text area here, and I want to set up conditional visibility such that the notes field is displayed only when normal status is not equal to the present status. And that can be done by clicking on add an expression. And this is done using Arcade. So when I come in here, I'm able to scroll down and select my attribute. Um, I say normal status is not equal to present status, and I test it and I say okay. So now I've set up my system valve form. I'm going to go ahead and save it. Now for the main distribution, I do not want to go ahead and design each of these fields. So I'm just going to go ahead and convert the pop-up and only change the name of the group here to general information. Similarly, I can set up the table as well. So for the table, also I'm going to convert the pop-up and change the name of the group. Now you don't have to have this group because I converted the pop-up, it's putting it into a group. So you can remove these items from the group if you do not want a group to be um, uh, added here. So it seems like I haven't saved this distribution form, so I'm going to go ahead and save it. So that easily I was able to create the form for each of my layers. Now I can go over to the other tabs in the web view and look at things that I want to set up. So this web map is already set up for offline mode, and you can expand out the content and see the different layers here. So one point here is that you have to have sync enabled on your layer to have to take the layers offline. And you can also come here and create map areas. So for example, if you have some regions in which field collection is going to take place, you can create these map areas ahead of time so that people going out on the field can identify their region in the mobile device and take those regions, the specific region that they're going to do field work for before they go out into the field. And it also gives you some other options to see how to select how features and attachments are going to be delivered to the mobile device. And you can also sideload the base map in case you do not want to use a predefined base map. And there are some settings here which was added in a recent release here. So you can set up the accuracy of data collection of the device location, GPS averaging, streamlining, the size of the photo upload, and some other things here that you can see here. You can change if you do not want people to edit multiple features together. And finally, when you are done creating uh, these forms, you can either share it with your organization if everyone in your organization is going to be collecting data or using this web map in their mobile device, or you can set up groups so that you can share this specific web map with a certain group that has certain members to allow them to access this web map. All right, so now I'm going to switch over to my mobile device and show you what it's going to look like the interface is on my mobile device, and then I'll um, switch back to my computer and show you some other things regarding tracking and visualizing the tracks on in the tracker application. I am working on sharing my screen. Okay, so as you can see here, I have a number of applications or Esri applications on my mobile device. So the first 5 field applications are going to be combined into field maps in the future. Right now, we have Explorer, Collector, and Tracker rolled in into field maps. So I'm going to go ahead and open field maps there. And in my front page, you'll notice I have access to all the web maps that someone has given me permission to, or the ones that I have created um, uh, previously. So the one that I created right now is the water map live demo. I'm not going to use that, but I'm going to use a very similar one that I created in the past, which has the same similar form functionality as well as the um, interface, as well as the pop-ups and everything are configured very similarly to this, just because I have data editing set up here for this application. So as you can see here, I can zoom in and out of this map by just using my fingers here, and I can select any uh, feature on my map, and it shows me, if I want to look at the attributes for the distribution main or the system valve. So if I select the system valve here, I can inspect the items here. And you'll notice that the information that I'm seeing right now is not the entire set of 42 variables. I'm only looking at the couple that I selected in my web map. And then when I go into valve maintenance, that is a related record. So I'm able to select and look at the inspections done on that specific valve over time. So I'm able to look at the different items there. I can either click on them and look at the maintenance date when it was performed and the notes for that. I can also go ahead and add an inspection record if that's needed. I'm going to go ahead and close out of that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to collect a new system valve record here on my map and also a distribution line at this very point. So I'm going to go ahead and add a point, a system valve. And when I scroll down, you'll notice what a radio button looks like. So for a set type, we selected radio button as the option in the form. I can select the one that I want that is going to be installed in this location. I can select the valve type. I can select the diameter. And when I scroll down, you'll notice that, I have status as a different group. So on top here, I have general information as one group and status as a different group. And I can either close that or expand it out. Oops. So I'm going to close general information and open status here. And both these status right now are open by default, which is what I had set up in my web form. So if I change the present status to closed, you'll notice that the notes option or the notes field becomes visible because conditional visibility has been set up here. So I can go ahead and select write notes, something like not yet functional, and say done. So I'm going to go ahead and submit it. All right. So I have submitted my point here. So the next thing I want to do here is collect distribution main. So when I collect the distribution main, I add a point at the current location. And then I'm going to move my mouse, and you'll notice here that the second point snapped onto the system valve. So it helps me be accurate in my data collection. And snapping is a really nice feature that allows you to make your data more consistent. So I'm going to go ahead and add point here and collect information here. for each of these different characteristics, and I'm going to hit submit. So let's say I am on the field and I want my managers to look at my location. I can turn on location tracking. So I can click the location tracking option there and say track my location. I can specify the number of hours that I want to be tracked for. I'm just going to hit 4 hours here and say done. Some other options that are available here are for you to be able to look at the layers. So when you look at the layers, turn on or turn off the layers. So by default, my tracks are going to be turned off. You can turn off system valve or distribution main. So sometimes, you might have multiple um, layers on your map and you don't want them all to be visible at once. You can allow people to turn on and off layers here. And some other options are being able to change the base map, create bookmarks. So you can go back to the bookmarks if it's a location that you want to view repeatedly, or you can also edit multiple records together. So when you're editing multiple data points together, you can select the data points. And right now we have 4 data points. So when I hit continue, it's going to give me all the different attributes for that layer, and I would be able to update the data points and hit submit. So for example here, if I know that you know I want all of these asset types to be concrete, I change it and I hit submit. Some other things that you can do are markup. So for markup, I want to say that this is a new area and that's being constructed. So I can just go ahead and put my notes there. When I add markup and I share the map out, uh, people in the office or my manager would be able to see this markup, and or anyone who has access to this map would be able to see the markup and the notes as well. And finally, in case you want to take these maps offline, you would be able to come here and add an offline area by selecting the area on the map and downloading that specific area. Now, if you have pre-created map areas, those map areas are going to show up here where you would just be able to click that area and download it onto your device. I'm not going to download the map right now. So that easily, you are able to collect your data on the field. And as you can see, it's a better interface for you to collect data because the forms are going to be much more streamlined and it's going to be more user friendly for your field workers to use. Plus the advantage is that if they're used to using collector, it's a very similar interface and it's not much of a learning curve as well. So I'm going to switch back to my computer. Okay, so before I go out of this Field Maps web interface, I want to show you one thing regarding um, the overview section of a web map. So you see this option here that allows you to hide these field maps in the mobile device. This allows somebody to disable the field map, this web map being shown in a field map. And the reason is because, in Collector, if you have created probably, 10 maps and only 2 of those maps were intended for field data collection, um, you have no choice but to look at all those 10 web maps in your mobile device. But with field maps, you can come here and designate it as being as hidden in the mobile device. There's another way that you can do that as well. So if you just go to the front page of the field maps, you can select the ones that you want to not be visible in the mobile device, and hide it. So for example, here I have this NASIO award story map that I don't want to be visible in my mobile device. So I'm just going to select that and say hide. So now I'm going to see only these two web maps visible in my mobile device, and I can look at all the other maps that are going to be hidden under the hidden tab in the web interface. And at any time, if you want to make this visible in the mobile device, you can come to the hidden section, select it, and oops, I didn't want to do that. Select it and say use in field maps. So this is a really easy and nice way for you to manage the number of maps that are going to be visible in your mobile device. So finally, what I wanted to show you here is the way that you can look at tracks. So when you go back to your content page, you would be able to go into the application called Track Viewer. And under Track Viewer, you can create multiple projects for looking at tracks of different purposes. But right now, we have just one Track Viewer project that's created here for our entire user base. So I'm going to search my name here and turn on the tracks that have been recorded for me. So this morning, what I did was I tracked my location or my drive all the way from my home to the office here. So when I, zoom in here, you'll notice that, I'm able to look at my track, the location of my device, and I can also, when I zoom in close by, I can select a specific location, look at my speed of travel at that location, and I can also look at what my battery level was at that location, which direction I was traveling at, and the accuracy of my device. There are some options over here that you can visualize and your data by. One is by time. So you can look at the current range or for the past 8 hours, for the past 12 hours, or you can also do a custom start and end range. Or you can also look at the location by accuracy, or you can look at it by speed as well. And a really nice part is you'd be able to view tracks based on, if the person has been driving, walking, stationary, etc. So when I turn on walking here, you'll notice that it turned green because there was no place that I was walking at. Maybe it was close to my house. But now if I turn on driving, you'll see that it was, it's all visible dark green in locations that I was driving at. In the back end, the tracks are saved in a feature layer. So you can add this feature layer to any application. You can add it to geo event to do geofencing and to send out notifications, or to ArcGIS Velocity and do notifications as well. So it enables you to use your tracks in other applications for analysis purposes as well. That's it for the demonstration part. I'm going to switch back to my presentation and talk a little bit about licensing. So if you have a creator or a GIS Pro named user, you can perform inspections, you can update or create um, points on the map, you can add photos, attachments, and you can also have you can simplify multiple app workflows. If you are a field worker, uh, you can perform inspections and do all the things that a creator or a GIS Pro named user can do, but you can also do location tracking. So this is something new that's been added in the latest release of ArcGIS Online. If you are a field worker, you do not need a premium license for location tracking. You can do location tracking with just the field map, the field worker user type. But if you are a creator, a GIS Pro named user, or an editor, you would need to have an additional tracker license to do location tracking. So now if you are a viewer named user, you can only view the layers on the map. You would not be able to do any kind of edits, but you still be able to create markups and use maps offline. If you have a Tracker Premium app license, you can use it along with the creator or the GIS Pro named user to enable location tracking. And sometimes people have the editor named user type and they add on a collector app license. In that case, you can create and edit your GIS data from mobile devices as well. And you can add attachments and do work offline as well. So this is the phases in which the future applications would be rolled in, the other applications would be rolled in. So right now we have Collector, Explorer, and Tracker rolled into field maps. It was released in December 2020. We've made some updates to it recently. In the next phase, we are going to have Workforce rolled into field maps, which is probably going to be later this year, maybe right after UC, in that time frame or around the UC time frame. And phase three, in phase three, we are going to introduce Navigator into this app. And I also wanted to bring this up because this was put out last year in the November 30th, around the November time frame. We are going to be deprecating Explorer, Collector, and Tracker as of December 2021. These applications are not going to be available for download from any of the stores, like the App Store or the Google Store. And but if you already have it on your device, it will continue to work. But we strongly encourage everyone to migrate to field maps. If you have workflows in Collector or Explorer or Tracker, we recommend you to migrate your workflows to field maps. We do have great resources to help you migrate your workflows to field maps. And one thing I want to note is that if you already have created your maps in Collector, you can open up those maps right now in field maps and work on them right now. You can also open them up in the web interface and create the forms if you want to do that as well. I'm going to leave these resources up. We probably have 2 minutes before the next presentation. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, Krithka, I think there's a comment about putting the resources in the chat window because no one's going to type in those crazy numbers.
Sure, I can do that.
And my guess is we'll share this PowerPoint in some form as well.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you guys if you want to or want me to post your PowerPoints on Sketch, because then everybody could access them.
We can discuss. I don't know what our plan is, but that sounds probably fine. There was a question. I'll just answer it online here. Is there additional cost for a tracker license if you have an organizational ArcGIS Online account? And the answer is that in the past, tracker licenses were separate, for sure, an added cost per user. But recently, I think you mentioned this, Krithka, they've enabled the tracker license as part of the field worker user type. So if you have field worker user types, not creator user types are what you get with your maintenance and such. But if you have other user types that are field worker specifically, they come with a tracker license as of April last month. The other user types do not. Creator etc. But you can get separate licenses and use them with those other user types.
Okay, do you want me to queue up?
Sure, Mark, passing it on to you for the
Okey-doke.
next presentation.
Cool, thank you. One thing I would say is that this morning, what I did was I took any links that I had in my presentation and I posted them in the Slack channel for the Esri morning sessions. So maybe what we could do is we could post I think these are midday. These are the midday sessions, something like that.
Yep.
And then that way you can like find them later. Because like if they go into the Zoom chat window, they go off into Zoom land, something. Okay. So, Tom, how does that look?
Perfect.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Krithka, that was an awesome presentation. Field maps is definitely the way to go as far as moving forward as we sort of consolidate some of these field applications. It's that was, once again, as this usually does, it follows like a whole bunch of comments and input from folks on looking out of the community. So that I think that all came together pretty good. All right, so as I indicated, there will be a PDF made of this presentation and shared. Leslie, I don't think there's any reason why we can't get those to you and you can put them on Sched. That's probably fine. It's just a question of when. And we usually have to go through a review to make sure there's anything in there that they want us to scrub out. It's not usually very much, but it's always good to go through the process. So that's what we'll do. So my session is on ArcGIS Hub. So this is a slice of our technology that's really starting to sort of steamroll right now. It's for a lot of reasons. The Hub experience, the Hub product has been shown to be a great vehicle for disseminating information, community gathering, and a bunch of other things that I will talk about. Through COVID, that was probably like, it seemed like every other hub that I saw spun up was some sort of COVID distribution hub. So it's a great tool, and I think you'll find it extremely useful. So I'm going to go through this and then do a short demo. So what is Hub? When we talk about Hub, so this term ArcGIS Hub is this cloud-based engagement and collaboration platform. It's a piece of the Esri Pi, the Esri platform, if you will, that helps. In the slide I put that it helps customers work more effectively with their communities, but I would also argue that it helps you work more effectively within your own organization as well. There's a lot of really super useful tools that are built into Hub for that you can find that you can leverage both inside and outside. Even though, I mean, the primary goal is to use Hub to communicate maps, apps, data, etc., out to the public. So as a community engagement concept, Hub is bolted onto ArcGIS Online. I have a couple of slides on what I guess I would call the ArcGIS Enterprise version of Hub, which is our enterprise sites. So I wanted to make sure to describe what those differences are. And then just to confuse you even more, we like to use the word site when we talk about the differences between Hub Basic and Hub Premium. So I'll make sure to clarify all of that. So you'll hear the term ArcGIS Hub. It is definitely an extension of ArcGIS Online. Way back in the day, this was originally part of Open Data. So when you spun up Open Data, that's really sort of what you were doing. And then we expanded the whole concept of the Open Data site and the Open Data platform into Hub. And then Open Data just becomes one of the sites or initiatives that you can spin up within your Hub. So that all pretty much works all together like that. There's two different flavors. There's Basic and Premium. So Basic comes with your ArcGIS Online subscription. So you can use that to convey information on important topics and share data and content. It works great. And then the whole concept of Hub Premium is when you collect data and feedback from the community. So for example, you could spin up a survey and then community users could participate in the survey and then respond to you and like work with the calendar and other things. So you have this concept of a community user. So we'll talk about those differences, and then I'll try to focus on Basic just as a starting point. Okay, so we build out these sites that can contain maps, dashboards, story maps, experiences, all these things that we've been talking about today, and we're going to talk about the rest of the day. All these items and objects can live inside of Hub, and the Hub site can end up being like this great landing page for people to come to communicate and collaborate around a project or around your local government entity or state government entity or agency or company or whatnot. And another great thing about this is you can build these sites out without having to be a programmer. So when Hub first came out, definitely required some HTML, CSS knowledge. Now those are skills that you can certainly leverage to customize the Hub even more, but now the majority of it is all drag and drop. So you don't have to worry about it. Okay. This search tool and catalog, like I said, that's the open data piece. That's all built into it. And these two chunks are all just part of Hub out of the box. The community identities, this is something that comes with a premium license. So Basic is as is, premium is at cost. I'm going to defer questions about what it costs to our talented account management team who can describe how Hub is licensed, how Hub community identities are licensed and whatnot. I think it's by population, but I've probably already put my foot in my mouth there, so I should probably stop right there. And then we build these things called initiatives. So if you have Hub Basic, you create a site. If you have Hub Premium, you create an initiative. And they're essentially the same idea. It's just that the initiatives have more like communication, collaboration, messaging, event creation, all these interaction chunks and pieces of creating data. That's all part of an initiative rather than a site. So what we look at here is that when you've got your, so I work in the local government team, so I work with like cities, towns, and counties. So when we look out at this landscape, you have all these people out in the public that may have a desire to or would be valuable to engage in some sort of a setup where they could come to this place, this hub, and find people to collaborate with. They could find data that they need. They could find maps that they could leverage, and all located in this one place, so they don't have to look for it. So spinning up these things like initiatives where we build a staff and we have like a core team where we have these trusted collaborators, and then we have people in the public who are either actively engaged or just want to be informed. And that all flows through the hub. Okay, so you can manage all these volunteers. The vaccine distribution idea was a pretty good example of that. So how does this all work? Well, we do have this concept of an ArcGIS enterprise site. So this is the enterprise version, if you will, of Hub. So this is if you build this on your portal, on your own infrastructure, on premise, or or on your cloud premise. That's even like a phrase, as opposed to Hub, which is up in ArcGIS Online. Okay, so Hub lives in ArcGIS Online, and then ArcGIS Enterprise sites live on your enterprise portal. And they could communicate with each other. That's totally fine. But again, the whole difference here being that the enterprise sites is part of enterprise. And then when we talk about Hub, we have Hub Basic and Hub Premium. And that's all depends on licensing and capabilities. So if I've got enterprise, why would I want to bother to use Hub at all? Enterprise site obviously lives in ArcGIS Enterprise, so it's on premise, and maybe your IT policies prevent you from using ArcGIS Online, or you work in a completely disconnected environment, and this is all going to have nothing to do with the public. You're doing this all like just within your own organization. You want to be able to control the way the web server interacts with the outside, and you want to host all of the data and items on your hardware or in your own private cloud. So that's the argument for enterprise sites. And then with Hub, of course, because it's ArcGIS Online, it scales automatically like ArcGIS Online does. The infrastructure is all hosted by Esri as it scales up and down as need be. Typically, feature functionality that we build in to Hub is going to show up first, and then it will be trickled down into enterprise sites. Just like when we introduce new functionality in ArcGIS Online, it eventually makes its way into ArcGIS Enterprise, but it comes after the fact. Okay, Hub is totally optimized for the web. We've learned a lot. I have a slide on this too. We learned a lot about scaling and what happens when you've got a lot of people hitting a hub all at once, and how to make that work and make that happen. And we've got some great case studies on that. Hub does have things that enterprise sites don't. A lot of it has to do with custom domain support. Some other, I'm not going to go into all this stuff. Just that it's all like a lot of IT specific capabilities that those are things that you'd want to control more of. So you would spin that up on like an enterprise site. Okay, so Hub Basic, we're starting to look at this as the springboard to WebGIS. And I really like this metaphor because, I mean, while the ArcGIS Online website and your ArcGIS Online landing page seems fine to us, like to GIS professionals, but you plunk somebody to, you link it in there, say off your website, your town's website, or your county's website. It's like, okay, what is this? I don't even know where to go from here. If it's not some app that's like right on the gallery in the front page, you're not even sure where to go. So it can become a great way to like organize where you want to send people. I mean, you could spin up multiple hubs where like one hub could be for talking to people about parks and gardens, and like another hub about something else or another department. Or you could have specific components in the hub for each department. It's totally up to you how you build it. But it can be a really effective way to sort of direct users where to go. And like I said, there's no coding. So you don't have to code any of this. This is like very simple to style and build these together without having to do any sort of programming whatsoever. Solutions are integrated with Hub. This is kind of a new idea where the ArcGIS solutions, so things like coronavirus response or things like the equitable property value hub, these are all now components that are driven by a hub configuration. So all of these now are populated into the ArcGIS Hub gallery. So if you were looking at Hub Basic, say like a year ago, if you checked it out now, you'd see a whole lot more stuff in here, a whole lot more data. Solutions on how to do things. So for example, like the equitable property value hub is actually a configuration that has about 6 or 7 solutions in it. So if you're looking for, say, the simple parcel viewer solution, that's actually now been embedded in as a piece of the equitable property value hub. So you would lay down the hub components, and as part of that, you get the parcel viewer along with a bunch of other ones. So some of these have been consolidated all together. And a lot of that was stuff that we learned, like with building some of these other ones, like the emergency response hub, the coronavirus response hub. Some of these, it just made sense to put all these together. So the hub and the solutions are now sort of all interoperable pieces. And almost all of these are included with Hub Basic as initiative templates. Okay, some of the site improvements that we've made, if you've used Hub before, the row management's a little better. Sign up surveys going to the right groups. That's kind of a nice tweak. I should say. It's a response to some complaints, which was totally legitimate. I mean, there were some things in there that just weren't falling in the right areas. The site editor continues to get better. It's more and more drag and drop as time goes by. We can put this concept of a card, like everything turns into a card in Hub. So you can have like an image card, and then a card for a survey form, and then a card for some maps, or you can have a gallery. So it could be a whole collection of maps and applications that come from a specific group, and that could all just be driven into this one gallery. So that's pretty cool there too. More things in the site editor. So the way to set up custom domains is improved quite a bit. The whole card controls, you can sort of click anywhere you want. Before you had to like find where the right button was to click on. More intuitive drag and drop works better. If you are actually tweaking and writing your own HTML code for some of the cards, that user interface is a lot more usable now. It used to be pretty bare bones. So you've got that. So that sort of wraps up some of those pieces. So how did this all work in the background? Well, like I said, we've learned a lot about how customers are using Hub, and it's getting even better security-wise. It's got better implementations like on AWS for higher levels of security. I do not work with federal customers, so I'm not like 100% up on FedRAMP, and what it means as far as security goes. But I know that's been a really important component for us to be working on for Hub, and that is all being rolled out. So that's a big one. In 2020, like I said, we had an explosion of Hub sites that came online. So much of it was driven by coronavirus response, and we really went to work on that to make that work better. So the Hub infrastructure now is much more highly available. It's better orchestrated. It responds to auto scaling in a much more performant manner. We've got personnel that are monitoring specifically pieces of Hub, as opposed to having it just be monitored as part of the whole ArcGIS Online ecosystem. There's pieces and parts that specifically look at Hub. I think there was a outage earlier in the week, I want to say, and that got flagged like much sooner than it would have been before we had this in place. So all of that continues to mature. It's all built on the ArcGIS Online API, which we're also constantly working on based on things that users are tossing at us, things that they want to do, and being able to sort of have this changing speeds of data download. Like if there's like a really huge spike all of a sudden in download for some reason, like people are downloading a floodplain information or something like that, to be able to respond to that on the back end. So a lot of these new things have been added since March. So I stole some of the slides from our presentation that was done to us on things that were coming new. So better content views, all sorts of different ways to put content together into cards and be able to manage that. Here's some examples here, like the capital project tracking. It used to sort of be a little clunky down on the lower left version. That's like the older version. The newer version is a lot more responsive, where you can have like multiple cards and you click on them and they pop up in the main window. So that's all pretty neat. Team member views, that's in now. So to be able to sort of look at all the people in the team and be able to organize that a little better. Things that people want, they're looking at being able to have better community engagement tools. So we're actively looking at that right now. So manage the community users from your side, and then from the user side, being able to provide information to them better to motivate them to be more engaged, which is kind of the whole goal. Okay, member profile, continue to expand that, so people can start putting information in there about like what the things are that they're interested in, and that can sort of help the organization to cater content for them, and then other folks that are coming into the hub to be able to find the people that they need to get in contact with, say from a certain, like from a county or a town. Community directory, be able to filter that stuff out and get stats, to be able to look at that. So that's if you're using Hub Premium and you've got all these community users. So I mean, the idea, the concept with Hub Premium is that you could have a community license for virtually every citizen, potentially. Okay, so you'd want to be able to manage that. Okay, so profiles and workspaces, areas where team members can share data. So this is this cool idea. This is just like a screenshot of a prototype. And then discussions and message boards to build that in. So the goal is to hopefully be able to perform these sorts of, open like a chat that's specifically oriented around an initiative. So we've got this Adopt a Hydrant initiative, say in our city, where people are going to volunteer to shovel out a fire hydrant, and they want to be able to communicate with each other and communicate with some of the folks in public works as to like, how that's working out, or, I broke my arm and I'm not going to be able to shovel the hydrant out, and engage down here in sort of like a discussion board. Okay, so to sort of summarize that up into a roadmap, we're looking at this whole idea of some of these newer tools, things that we've built in. I've talked a lot about that already. The FedRAMP compliance thing that's coming, this whole idea of a team workspace, just a couple of slides ago, and managing that. In the future, long term, so sort of like looking out to maybe like into like early next year, and these will probably be some things that you might see in a presentation at the user conference this year, to sort of talking about what they're working on. So community member sign up could be improved, greater control over that on both sides, control over community members. So you could have like, instead of having just a community member, you could have community members that could do specific things and specific initiatives and sites and data, maybe even giving a community user the ability to like create maybe even like a survey form on a limited basis. Okay, so things like that. So that would be pretty neat. And a lot of that is going to be percolated into collaborations, which we're going to talk about later today. Okay, resources for Hub. I'm going to post these in the Slack channel, as well as you'll have these, but there's some great quick start learning guides for Hub. They're built into the documentation in the help or in the product page, which I'm going to show you. And then also in the learn.arcgis.com website. So for those of you who haven't been to this specific website, I encourage you to check it out, because they're putting incredible content out there for learning about Esri products, like right from the get-go. Like here's Hub, I don't know anything about it. I don't think I'm like ready to take a training class yet. Well, there could be like a learn lesson that you could download some data for and then run it at your leisure. That might take anywhere from like 8 minutes to an hour, depending on the length of the lesson. And there's some really, really good ones for Hub that I'll show you what some of those look like. And Tom mentioned some of the stuff that you can find on YouTube. You can definitely go out and find that. There's a lot of videos on Hub out there and some walkthroughs. And then we've got a whole bunch of Hub how-to playlists that you can find. And the other thing is our training consultants, which are available for you. Anyone on maintenance has access to a free consultation with one of our training folks, like Philip Waldron out of the Philly office. We work with him, and they can set you up like a learning path. Say, like, I'm going to start with I don't know anything about Hub, all the way up to I want to be the Hub administrator for our city, and I want to be able to do that. So I want to learn how to do that. So let's go over here. Make sure I get the right browser window since I have like 10 of them open right now. So here's an example of one of those I was talking about. So this is like this is right out of the blog. I'm going to put a link out for this one. It's just a quick start for ArcGIS Hub Basic. It goes through a couple of videos, sort of walks you through this whole idea of creating a site, putting content in, putting it together with your team, and you can run through that whole thing in like about 10 or 15 minutes. It's a really great introduction. So I really like that one. If you just go to, let me just type this in and show you what this looks like. So if you just go to learn.arcgis.com, this will actually link you out to a different page. And these are all these learn lessons, and they're all broken up. What kind of person am I? Am I a professor? I'm a student, a GIS professional. I'm definitely new to GIS. I just want to learn. Or, hey, I just want to search everything. And I could go in here and I could say, hey, I want to say ArcGIS Hub. And here are all of these lessons for ArcGIS Hub. Okay, these are all available to you. So there's like, develop your own Hub template, create a COVID-19 Hub. I would like to get started with Hub Premium. Don't know anything about it. I want to learn more about that. No, I want to do Hub Basic. And so these have all been built by either Esri Edge Services people or other folks at Esri, just to get you to learn how to use these things. And then some of these are actually more like this one here. This is like a GIS exercise on population development studies, and then the final analysis, it uses Hub as a tool to distribute the information. Okay, so I'd really encourage you to check out these learn lessons. They're really pretty awesome. And then we have the Hub page, so the Hub product page, and there's a lot of great stuff in here just on learning about how Hub is implemented and what it can do, all the different features and functionality. And then my favorite part is down here, where you get to look at some of the Hub sites that that our users have put together. And this gallery right here changes like on a daily basis. They just keep putting more and more stuff in here. So some of these might percolate out, but you can always click on this button here and just go, literally find like all of them. You can say, oh yeah, like I'm in government, and I'm interested in that, and I could just do a search, for a specific one. Here's one where a county has put like their county plan. The county commissioners have put the plan out, and they put that in there. This one here is a little more of like a traditional city, town. In this case, it's a county. And so they've got like, here's their map here about the county, the Hub, all about it. Different applications they've got, ditch mapping, address requests. They put this all together. An election hub, which is really important during election season. The COVID-19 updates. For a while, they had this promoted where it was like more up here. It was in a card that was had more of a focus to it. And then as they drifted into the reassessment that the county was going through, they percolated the tax parcel information up top. So how many parcels do we have in Renville County? Do I want to look at the property tax viewer? And at one point they had one up here that was more even oriented around like foreclosures. Back they were having some sort of like an issue with that. So all of that information coming out based on the fact that they landed on that hub page. Okay, so that's really kind of cool. So how does that all work? So if you have an ArcGIS Online organization, then you have Hub. And so here I've got my city maps and apps org, and I go to my app picker, which is this little app chooser button here. I always do that. I press the wrong mouse button, sorry. And so you can see in here that there's Hub. Okay, so I click on Hub and it opens up my Hub Builder page. So this shows me all of the sites. It tells me that they're in the process of re-architecting the whole designer site and the content pages. So that's actually coming like next week. So that's on its way. Doesn't affect anything that you have. It's just how it's presented. They're changing this user interface a little better. Okay, so it shows me I've got 3 sites that I've built. I can see those over here. There's this practice site where I was like building and practicing, playing around. There's the equitable property value hub, like I talked about. I spun that up. There's a healthy communities hub that I was, I was playing around with the user. So these are all these initiatives. So if I went to like a new one and I said I want to build a new site, I could give this site a name. I could just call this like NEARC. And if I wanted to, I could browse these templates. And you saw that I had on a slide, and it's like, these are all the templates that I have access to. So these are like hub sites that we've configured, sort of like as a jump start. And then you'd end up plugging your maps and applications into it, and then configuring them to work with the way that the hub is set up. Okay, so we've got like adopt a catch basin, adopt a bus stop. So these are like community interactions to say, hey, I'm going to be a team that's going to go out and clean this bus stop like once a week because, we're big fans of public transportation and we want to keep it clean. Adopt a catch basin, big in New England, keeping the leaves cleaned out of catch basins so the storm drain doesn't flood. All the coronavirus stuff is all in here, so I could spin up a coronavirus business continuity plan or coronavirus recovery. There's all sorts of these in here. Or you can start from scratch. Okay, you can say, hey, it's a completely blank site. It has absolutely nothing in it. And then you go through the process of building it all out. Okay, so I'm going to go back first here. And I'll call this, oops, NEARC, and say create a site. Okay, so this takes a little bit, a minute or so, and what it does is it's building all of the framework for the hub. So it's laying down a whole bunch of feature layers and content and metadata, and it puts it down. And there's also there's like an actual ArcGIS Online element, an object that you'll see when you look in your content. It's the hub object. It's like a controlling item that you'll see in ArcGIS Online. So needless to say, it's not something you'd want to delete. This is just like a nice little splash page. So, it says all the things that I can do. And then what do I want to do with it? So here I am. This is what it gives me as just a blank starting page. So I could start to plug in things like, what do I want to happen when I click on this visualize and analyze? Maybe I'm going to have like a visualization of all the property values in my city, or I want to do like a floodplain analysis, and I'm going to show the results of that. Maybe I've got some applications like dashboards that I want to share with some of my other users. Maybe I've got data. I want this to be more like an open data site. And so I can like start categorizing all my data in terms of, is it business oriented data? Is it education? Is it housing? Are they boundaries? Again, like parcels. That could all go in there. So I'd want to configure that. But probably one of the first things you'd want to do is to just start editing and changing the way some of this stuff works and how it looks. Okay, so for example, if maybe I've got this is a nice image of, I don't know, that's a capital somewhere. I really couldn't say where it is, but I could just go grab an image from my desktop somewhere, or if I've got a link to one in the web. And I'll put that in there. That looks pretty nice. Anybody know where that is? It's Albany. It's Albany, New York. So I can set that up. That's great. You know, maybe I'll even like put welcome to Albany, New York, Capital District. So you can see I'm putting all that in. I don't have to do any programming or anything. You know, changes text, do whatever I want with it. Say like you know, Albany hub is for you. And start putting in things like that. So other content that I put in, a lot of times what you do is you'd organize this with a row. So I'd grab like a row element and say, you know, I'm just going to go ahead and put this right here and say, you know, it's okay. So great. A row is just a place where I would put stuff. If I wanted to, I could put like different items. Like I could put a gallery card right inside the row. I could say, oh, okay, great. You know, what do I want to put in there? Well, I'm going to look for like maps and apps and I don't know, like maybe even like data sets and documents that I've got, even a dashboard. And then I could like go in and start searching this and saying like, you know, maybe I've got different categories I want to say. Is there a group that you want to look for? Or do you just want to browse? You know, you just want to like browse for the data. You can certainly do that. You know, I can go in here and look at all my groups. I'm like, well, what do I have in here for groups? Oh, I've got like City of Albany, New York, and I got the City of Albany parking signs. You know, those look like a couple of groups that might have some good stuff in it. I end up with like too much. I'm like, oh man, you know, those aren't the ones I really wanted. You know, I don't want that one. I'm gonna take that one off there and do it again. Okay, so like anything I have in here, I can, you know, pretty much just put it in, take it out, do whatever I want. Other things, I could add a survey. I could put a survey card in here and say, hey, you know, what we're going to do is going to put a survey 123 survey in here. And if I don't have it, I could create the survey right here. Okay, so I could just go in and say, hey, you know, I haven't made a survey yet. Can I just make it and put it right here? Yeah, absolutely. So you'd be able to do that. You could do that with a story map. All these items, you could just build them on the fly and just embed them into your hub. Anytime you want to save it, you can just save it. If I want to look at it, I can say, hey, I want to see a draft before I publish it. So before I do that, I'm going to come back over here and open this one up. So this was one I already did. So I trimmed that out and I put just the Albany sign inspections dashboard. So I've got a dashboard in here. I've got a sign editing map. I've got this ward map in here. And then a little further down, I've got a survey 123 survey. So this is the citizen sign report where like citizens can come in and say, you know, hey, there's this yield sign that nobody ever stopped, nobody ever yields to right in front of my house. I'm kind of getting tired of it. Or this sign got whacked by the plow last week and it's still laying in the ditch. Somebody might want to come fix it. So just like a sort of a citizen response thing. So I pulled that in. So you can like go in, you can see it. You can say, you know, show me what this looks like. You know, if I was going to run this thing, this is actually what it would look like. I haven't published it yet, but it's okay. I can still go in here and like interact with it. So like if I wanted to have this map up as like a public map where people could go in and like look at the road sign, they could see the condition code on it. Probably you wouldn't want to have it exactly like this. You'd want to, you know, just have like a few attributes in there that people could go in and like search and look for. So to put that in, but you know, there's your, you know, that whole idea. Oh, whoops, that whole idea there. To have that in there. There's my survey. Citizen could go in and say, hey, I want to go in and like, I want to take this survey. That's great. Let's go ahead and publish that as a draft. So now it's published, boink. And then we'll view the published hub. So this is the live one. So this is the one where the citizens can come in and say, hey, what do you think about this sign? It's too high, it's too short, it's just right. It's like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. And if you want, you could like put your email in there. We'll go ahead and we'll contact you when we're done. So now citizens can come in here and like interact with us and you know, go back, and if they wanted, they could go in and do like a whole nother survey if they wanted to. Okay, so that was all pretty easy. You know, I threw that all together. Really doesn't take a whole lot. Like I said, there's not any programming involved whatsoever. There's so much more you can do with this. Let's go back into edit mode. In the layout, just to give you an idea, I mean, you can put different colors in here. You can put like, you can embed charts, and iframe is just sort of like a generic way to embed other content into that. Any statistics that you want to put in, videos, social media feeds, that can all be pulled into the hub as well. And you know, again, I repeat, this doesn't require any programming or development skills. This is all just drag and drop with these cards. So it's pretty powerful. What I'm seeing right now, like with some of our customers that I've been working with in New York and New England, is looking at Hub more of a like the public landing site for GIS for the county or for the city or for the town, you know, rather than sending them like with a direct link from the website to a web map or a direct link to a dashboard. Everybody knows that this landing page is this hub thing, and it's all very well organized. So there's like a right up front, there's like a link saying, you know, go here to get, you know, dashboarded information about property revaluation in our county. So and then it's really easy, because then if we go and we change the content, the link in the hub page doesn't change. Okay, so like earlier today, I was talking about changing item IDs with a dashboard. So like as long as I don't change the item ID, which I wouldn't be unless I was saving like a whole new copy, I can completely reconfigure a dashboard, and the link to it here in my hub doesn't break. It's just completely the same, and it's you know, it's more of like a dynamic content management system that I can use to you know, set this up and promote my city or my county. So let me come back here. And that is it. So I actually left 5 minutes or so. What time is it? Where are we? 4 minutes.
27.
3 minutes. 3 minutes for open questions, comments, complaints. Tom, did we get any good questions in the chat, or?
Let's see. We got one question about being able to publish services to, you know, ArcGIS server and use them in Hub, which, and the answer is, of course, yes, you can do that, just like you can use those services in ArcGIS Online or Enterprise Portal, you know, where you say add them to a web map, or you could register them in ArcGIS Online just so that ArcGIS Online has an item for a service that's hosted. And then you can use them, those things, a registered item or a web map or a dashboard or whatever's using those underlying server services inside of your hub site.
Yep.
So that was the only question, I think, in the chat window, but we have a few minutes if people want to unmute and dare speak out loud. What would be the best way to collaborate with others outside of an org to pull content into a single hub? Well, we're going to talk about collaboration, which allows multiple organizations to, that's in the next session, collaboration, allows multiple organizations to share content, and that shared content could potentially be used in Hub. The other thing is that you can be correct me if I'm wrong, Mark or Kriska, but you know, I think, could you not use your be on a hub initiative or site as a user from another org? But this is more about content than it's probably about, either making things public
Hmm,
or in shared, shared groups,
right.
depending on how you're using your hub. If it's going to be a public hub site anyway, then the items are going to have to be public. But if it's going to not be public, then collaboration comes into play. But Katie, you're right that it is public. So, once something's public, I like say you, Katie, make a web map public or a dashboard or something. I can just sort of add that to a group that's in my org and use it inside of Hub. I don't own it. I can't edit it. But I can reference it and I can use it in Hub. That's no problem. And then again, we're going to talk more about more specific collaborations in the next session. But public things are easy to add to orgs and hub sites and things like that.
Right. Yeah, that would actually be a good question for the hub team is like if I establish a collaboration with another org, can I, through that collaboration, can I give them access to the hub? Say it's not public. I don't know. I'm sort of mulling that over in my head live.
Yeah,
It's not
that's
working very
interesting.
well, but
Right. But
yeah.
from the public perspective, anything that's
Yeah.
public is easy
Yeah.
to share in a hub site, in a group
Right.
that you create in your organization or not. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and that's probably a more reasonable and realistic scenario, especially with Hub. I mean, the intent of Hub is for public communication. So like you could have maybe like 3 towns all working together on something through a collaboration, but since it's all public, could all be shared through the Hub.
Right. That's all we got.
All right.
2:31. So I think
Wow.
we're on to our next poster session
Amazing.
and break. The other thing I'll just mention, Mark, if anyone's still here, is that we do have a hub site for the Esri Boston office.
All right.
And if you're not aware of that, I'll put it in the chat window real quick, the URL to it. It's just go.esri.com/Boston Hub. That's the shortcut. And you can follow that initiative, and we can send you notifications if we want, or if you're interested in receiving, and you can keep up to date on things that we post there about events and other things like that are going on. So Mark's just bringing it up so you can see it. It's got a couple different pages there, like events and news and community, etc. And of course, Karsten just reminded us that let's not forget about the Let's Move hub site. And the
All
link
right.
is in the chat there. So get out and run, walk, bike, canoe, etc. And
Do it.
Do it. Right.
Do it. Just do it.
And that goes through Saturday, by the way, the Let's Move effort,
Oh, cool. All right.
not just today. Thank you very much, you guys.
Okay, I will stop sharing and everybody enjoy the poster session and we'll hopefully see you later.
Great, thanks.